Navy SEALs have a saying that separates the elite from the average. When your mind tells you that you are done, that you are completely exhausted, and that you cannot take another step, you are really only 40% done. Think about the last time you quit something. That burning in your lungs? That voice screaming, "I can't do this?" That was not a physical limit. That was a psychological trick. We live in a society that fetishizes comfort. We interpret discomfort as danger. We think that if it hurts, we are breaking. But the science says otherwise. The science says that pain is just information. Most of us live our entire lives within that first 40%. We die without ever tapping into the 60% reserve tank because we are terrified of the governor in our heads. Today, we are going to break that fear. We are going to explore the neuroscience of grit, the anatomy of the anterior midcingulate cortex, and how to turn off the safety switch in your brain so you can finally meet the person you were capable of becoming. Welcome back to Take and Grow. Why do you quit? You start a workout. It gets hard. You stop. You start a business. The revenue dips. You pivot. You start a diet. You get hungry. You cave. You tell yourself, "I ran out of energy. I ran out of willpower." You are lying to yourself. In exercise physiology, there is a concept called the central governor theory. Imagine a high-performance sports car. It has an engine capable of doing 200 miles per hour. But the factory installs a governor, a digital chip, that cuts the fuel line at 110 miles per hour. Why? To save the engine from blowing up. To extend the warranty. Your brain is that factory. It has evolved over millions of years to keep you alive, not to make you great. It calculates your fuel, glycogen, your heat levels, and your stress. When you reach a certain threshold of discomfort, the governor sends a fake signal of fatigue to your muscles. It cuts the neural drive. It screams, "Stop now or we might die." But the governor is conservative. It triggers the alarm when you still have 60% of your fuel left. It is hoarding energy for a lion attack that is never coming. The problem is, you listen to it. You treat the governor's check engine light as a catastrophic failure. If you want to build resilience, you have to learn how to override this system. You have to learn that the governor is not your friend. It is an overprotective parent that you need to disobey. Let's get into the hard science. Why are some people hard and some people soft? Is it just genetics? Recent neuroscience has pinpointed the exact location of the will. It is a brain structure called Anterior Midcingulate, Cortex, AMCC. This area sits right between your primal brain, the emotional, fearful part, and your prefrontal cortex, the logical, planning part. It is the bridge. Scientists have found a direct correlation in people who are obese. The MCC is shrunken. In elite athletes, Navy SEALs, and superagers, people who live to 100 with sharp minds. This area is massive, but here is the critical discovery. The IMCC is plastic. It grows and shrinks based on your behavior, but it only grows under one specific condition: when you do things you do not want to do. If you love running and you go for a run, the MCC stays the same. That's easy for you. If you hate the cold and you force yourself into an ice bath, the IMCC gets bigger. If you are terrified of public speaking and you walk onto the stage, the AMCC gets bigger. This is the physical location of grit. When you feel soft, it is because your MCC has atrophied. You have spent years seeking comfort. You have trained your brain to choose the path of least resistance. Every time you hit snooze, every time you skip the last rep, every time you avoid the difficult conversation, you are physically shrinking the part of your brain responsible for the will to live. Now that we know the hardware, let's talk about the software. How do we access the 40%? We have to master the negotiation. When you hit the wall, whether it's mile 20 of a marathon or hour 12 of workday, your internal monologue changes. The governor starts making offers. Just walk for a minute. We can finish this tomorrow. You've done enough. This is a micro quit. You haven't stopped yet, but you have mentally checked out. You are looking for an exit ramp to access the 40%. You must realize that the wall is not a concrete barrier. It is a curtain. It looks solid, but if you push, you go right through it. The technique. Dissociation. When the pain gets loud, stop saying I hurt. Start saying the body hurts. View the pain as data. My legs are burning. $. Translation. Lactic acid is building up. I am not injured. I am just processing chemistry. I am scared. $. Translation. Adrenaline is high. My governor is panicking. I am safe. When you dissociate, you take the emotion out of the signal. You look at the dashboard, see the check engine light, and you say, acknowledged. Keep driving. What happens if you push through? What is on the other side of the 40%? The second wind. This isn't just poetry. It's pharmacology. When the governor realizes that you are not going to stop, that you are overriding the safety switch, it has no choice but to release the reserves. It floods your system with endorphins, painkillers, and dopamine, motivation, to help you survive the threat. This is why the last mile of a marathon often feels easier than the middle miles. This is why you get a sudden burst of clarity at 3 a.m. when you finally crack the code. But you have to earn the chemicals. The dopamine is the reward for the friction. If you quit at the first sign of struggle, you never get the chemical release. You just get the pain without the glory. You have to teach your brain. The only way out is through. How do you make this permanent? You need a cookie jar. This is a concept from David Goggins, but biologically, it is self-efficacy memory. Your brain is constantly predicting the future based on the past. If your past is full of quitting, your brain predicts failure. It says, we are the type of person who gives up. You need to change the data set. Every time you beat the governor, you put a cookie in the jar. You stayed in the plank for 5 minutes? Cookie. You made the cold call when you were terrified? Cookie. You woke up at 4 a.m.? Cookie. When life hits you hard, when you get fired, when you get sick, when you are heartbroken, you reach into the jar. You remind yourself, I am the person who does hard things. I have the evidence. You don't need motivation. You need a track record. Here is your operational protocol for the next 7 days. You don't need to run an ultramarathon. You need to train the AMCC with micro-adversity. I call this the +1 method. Whatever your limit is, you must go 1 unit past it. If you run until you want to stop, run 1 more minute. If you are doing push-ups and fail, hold the plank for 1 more second. If you are reading and want to close the book, read 1 more page. That +1 is the 40% zone. That is the only rep that counts. The first 20 reps were for your muscles. The +1 rep is for your soul. It is for the CC. In that singular moment of +1, you are rewiring your brain to realize that the governor is a liar. I want to leave you with this. There is a version of you that is capable of anything. A version of you that doesn't need to be motivated. That doesn't need to be coddled. That version is locked behind the door of discomfort. The only way to meet him is to walk through the fire. Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. Because on the other side of suffering is the only thing worth having. Pride. True, earned pride. Here is your challenge. Identify the one area of your life where you have been soft, where you have been listening to the governor. Today, go there. Push to the wall. And when the voice says stop, Go one step further. If you are ready to callous your mind, hit that like button. Subscribe to Take and Grow. If you are done being average, tell me in the comments. What is your +1 for today? Stay hard. Grow.